Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Wednesday webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about customizing forms within the CRM. There are 4 different types of forms within your dynamic CRM. The main form, that's also known as the long form, and it's used when you access a record or when you create a new record from an entity list. The quick create, it's a basic form used to create new records. It's a lot smaller than the long form, and you can access that by going to the plus sign in the black toolbar, which we'll look at in a little bit here. The quick view form can be placed within a long form, and it displays additional data for a record that's referenced by a lookup field. And then the card, it presents information in a compact format, and that's suitable for mobile devices. It's used in user interface views within those apps. We won't spend too much time looking at the card today. We're going to focus on the other 3 types of forms. What can you customize? So there's a lot that you can customize from the form. The field requirement is at the field level, but you can access your fields from the customization of the form. Your field visibility, you can do that. Those are business rules, but you can create that from customizing the form. You can change all the placement. There's headers and footers. You can add subsets of other data, all of these things. Security roles are generally used when you either have multiple roles that you want. Maybe you want your salespeople to see one version of a form, customer service to see another, or maybe you have fields that you don't necessarily want everyone to see. So maybe you have like a frontline user form, and then maybe like a manager or an executive level form. So it does have the capability to use security roles, and you can navigate to other entities that are related to the record you're in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the CRM so you can see some of the customizations that you can do. So there's 3 different ways that you can get to customizing the form. Here in the navigation bar, you can go to your settings section and customizations, and you can go to customize the system, and this will pop up your customization box where you can create new fields, you can build processes out of here. All of your entities live within here. You can do views and everything. Another way that you can get to that is if you're within a particular entity. So we're going to be focusing mainly on accounts today. So when you're within an entity list, under the ellipsis, you can go to customize entity. What this does is it pops up that same customization box, and the entity that you're on will already be expanded. So you can see here, we see the account, and here is the very first one is forms. One other way that you can edit forms, if you're within a record itself, it's just taking a moment to pop up here on the white toolbar, there is a link to the form. So if you click that, that will bring up the actual long form that you're in. So this is only for editing the current form you're accessing and only for the long form, not any of those smaller ones. So the first thing I want to look at is we're going to talk about the quick view. This is the one where you can create a view that is available on a long form. And what I want to show you first here is we're looking at an account form. And off to the right-hand side here, you can see our primary contact. And then this email and business phone, that actually is a quick view to that contact, looking up that primary contact. So we're going to go ahead and edit this quick view. And I'm going to use the box that we had opened. And for this one, since it is a contact quick view, I'm going to go down to the contact and look in the forms here. And the name, we have quite a few in here, but the name of the quick view form I'm looking for is this account contact card. Okay, With this account contact card, you can see we just have the email and business phone. And what I want to pull in is I'm going to pull in the job title. And it's going to be the same on all the forms that you are looking to customize. All of your fields available for that entity are going to be on this right-hand side. You can see we have a checkbox to include only unused fields. If for any reason you were creating something where you might want to duplicate fields that are already on the form, you would just uncheck that, and then all fields would become available. So I'm going to go down to job title. And anytime you're pulling anything onto the forms, you can just select it from the list and drag it over to the form. And if you accidentally place it in the wrong place, you can just move it around. The red line always gives you an indication of where the top of the box you're going to be pulling over is. So we've added the job title here. Another thing that will be the same across all forms is you have sections and tabs. Right here, the light gray box that contains, that is our section. And then the tab is this larger white box. So we're going to have this section highlighted here. And if you click on Change Properties, here are available things that you can customize within the form. You can give the form a label. Right now, we have it chosen that the label doesn't show, but you can have the label show. You can have a line at the top of the section. You can change the width if you feel that the names of your fields are too long or they're getting cut off. You can extend the width, or if they're really short and you have a lot to type in, you also can decrease the width. You can choose visibility and whether or not it's available on phones. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And we're going to look at some more of these things as we move on because they are very similar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this one. And we're going to go ahead and publish it. Okay. And I'm going to go back to our account form here and refresh my page. Sometimes with CRM, when you are making customizations and you publish your customizations, a refresh will do the trick, and you'll see that sometimes you may have to log out and back in, just depending on how many customizations you've done. This is a pretty simple one. But now we can see over on the right-hand side here with our quick view, we now see the job title, email, and business phone. We also see our label in here as well. So let's move on and take a look at the quick create. So your quick create, you normally access here with the plus sign in this black toolbar, and you select which record you want to create. So we're looking at accounts here, and it's just this shortened box. So you can see what the quick create looks at, but we're going to go ahead and edit this because it isn't what we really need. With a quick create, you want to make it, what are your required fields? What is the absolute minimum you need when creating this type of record? So I'm going to go back up to the account and we're going to look for the quick create. So you can see when you're looking at all your forms, the form type is here, the third column, and we're looking at the quick create. Okay, so a couple of the changes that I want to make with my quick create form here is I'm going to remove this primary contact field. Contacts aren't something you can add until after you've saved the record anyways, so there isn't really a point of having it on our quick create field. So I just make sure that I have that field selected and I select remove, and there we go, it's gone. For the sake of this, I'm also going to take out our revenue, and then we're going to add a few things in. For example, over here under address, I see we have the street, city, and the zip, but I want to go ahead and add in the state. Whenever you add a field in, the label is always going to come over with the display name for that field you've selected. So we see ours says address 1 state / province. Well, if we want to shorten it up, you can either make sure you have it selected and click on change properties, or you can double click on that field. And here's where we can format that field itself. So I'm going to change the label to just say state. I'm going to display it on the form, not read only. We want to be able to enter things. We don't need to lock it. We want it visible and available on the phone. The other things that you can do with field levels, there are layouts. If we had multiple columns available, we could specify if we want this field to take up multiple columns. The details section, if you go to edit here, that will bring up the field data so that it is like a data field that you just enter text, or if it's a number, things like that. That's where you can edit the field itself. Events, those are developer events that can be created and you can add to different fields. Business rules, we're not going to go into creating these. That's going to be a separate type of training, but this is where you would create those business rules that could pertain to, hide this field if this is met, or show this field in these types of situations. And controls, this just shows it's a text box, and that's what it's going to be on web, phone, and tablet. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And a couple other things to show you with formatting sections. So at this one, we're going to select the details section and we're going to change the properties. Some of the formatting options you have here is you can have the number of columns within a section. I always warn people to be careful because you can also have columns within a tab. So if you have the overall tab has 3 columns, you could also have a section with 3 to 4 columns, and data can get kind of clustered and become hard to read. So just be careful when taking a look at your layout, but it's easy to change. You also can do field label alignment. So left, right, or center, everything defaults to left, but maybe you want it closer to the boxes, which we'll do in this one. And you can select a field label position if you want it on the side or the top. So this one, we're just going to have the labels go to the right. In the address, maybe we want to put those field labels on top. And then in the middle, let's add a few things in here. Say we want to know the industry, and let's go ahead and put in, we always like to know for our customers, one of the things is, do they use Power BI? Do they use CRM? Do they use GP? So I'm just going to add a few of those in here. Another thing that you have within customizing your forms is the ability to preview. So we've set this up. We have a couple labels. We've moved some of where our labels appear. And if you go to the preview section, you can preview a create or update form. So if we look at the preview, we can see, I'm going to extend this out here, we can see what it's going to look like. Where we put the account name, you can see that these are more aligned to the right versus the left. This is what it looks like when they're on top. So you always can take a look and preview before saving and publishing, just to make sure it's looking and feeling how you want it to. So we're going to go ahead and close that out. And we're going to spend a majority of our time looking at the main form here, just because that is the one with the most options and usually the one people customize the most. So we've been editing forms. This whole time we went in and edited the quick view and the quick create, but you also can create new forms. So under new, you select which type of form you want to create, and we're going to go ahead and create a new main form. And what this does, it starts out, it's just copying what our main account form is right now. So it will come up with fields already placed. This is what our main account form looks like right now. And let's talk through the sections. So there's a header and footer section, and we will look at how this all shows up on the CRM in a minute, but I want to show you where to customize it first. So with the header and the footer, the same way as if you start dragging fields over, you'll notice that no red line is appearing in the header, but it would down here in the body. So to access the header, you can either double click on it, or if, say, we're in the body here, you can also select header up here on the toolbar, and that will open that up, allowing you to pull fields in there. We've already got a couple things in our header. Now the footer, I'm going to pull something into here so we can go ahead and let's just pull the account name in. So you'll see where that appears when we get this published. And that really is just pulling in a small number of fields. The majority of your customization will probably take place in this body. So within the body of any form, you have the tabs and sections like we've talked about. On this main form, you can see here, these blue hyperlinks, those are your different overall tabs that you have. So when you're looking at a tab, and we're going to go to change properties, there's a few things to note that are helpful with main forms. Again, you can label it whatever you want. You can either show or not show the label. But then there also is expand this tab by default. So when you have a lot of tabs within your main form, some you may want to automatically expand when you go into them, and some you may want to have collapse. Really is a personal preference. A lot of times I see companies using one tab will be automatically expanded, and then the ones below it may be collapsed for just a little more clean look, and it's easier for people to then go into the section that they need. And then if it's visible by default, you can hide tabs as well. And the same availability on the phone. The formatting is very similar here. With the tabs, when you do have multiple columns, you can manually put in different widths. So in this example, we don't have them exactly the same. You know, it's not 3 identical columns. You can see the percentages of the space that they take up. So for example, let's look at one of our tabs. We're going to go to the project price lists, and I'm going to go ahead and say I don't want that expanded. And we're going to not expand the details and field service. We're going to say we don't want that expanded either. Perfect. So we're going to select those. Now, we looked before where you could drag around different fields, how you can place different fields individually. You also can drag whole sections. So you really can, make it look however you want. When you're looking at something new, so we have quite a few things already in here. We have sections, we have tabs, but say you're creating something even newer, you want to get rid of some tabs or you just want to do some new things. If you go to the Insert toolbar here, this is where you can start making all new. So under this section, you can choose 1 through 4 columns. So if we want a new section with 1 column, you can see now we have a blank section down here, and we could start putting in different fields we want, and we can do all those customizations. I'm going to remove this one. Now the tabs, this is where you can have tabs with 3 columns, 2 columns, or 1 column. All of the same things we saw when we were just changing the properties, but this would add a completely new tab. So if we were to go say, I want a tab with 2 columns, it would create a blank one underneath where I was when I inserted it. The other things that I had mentioned on the customizations that you can make, we're going to talk about some data you can enter. So with a subgrid, this is where you can pull related records to the entity you're within. So we're in an account here. We could have subgrids of show me all the opportunities that this customer has, show me all the contacts. We have on this one contacts and cases. So when you're inserting a subgrid, you're going to give it a name, and there will always be a place where you have to have a unique name and make sure the label as well, and you can choose to display it. And then you go through choosing which records you want to appear on your subgrid. Generally, it's going to be only related records, but you do have the option to override that to all records, but then that would show all opportunities, not just opportunities related to this account. You can choose the entity. So for example, we want to show opportunities, and then a default view. So you have my open opportunities, but these are all our system views. That is something to always be aware of. If you default to like a my open opportunities or my contacts, If someone else owns that opportunity or owns that contact, it wouldn't show on your subgrid for that account. So you may not always see everything related to the account itself. You also have the ability to have some additional options when you have a subgrid. You can have a search box. You can also allow end users to select the view. So right now, selecting a view is off. If you show all views or selected views, when you're looking at the record, say you have that My Open Opportunities, there would be a way where you could select then, oh wait, now I want to see all opportunities. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to turn this on, and we're going to show all views. But if you were to choose show selected views, you could choose which views were available for your end user. You also can add charts. So let's go ahead. Oop, I forgot to name it. So on this new tab that I've created, and I'm going to name the tab here. I'm not going to rename the tab 8. I'm just going to change the label and show the label so we can see there's our opportunities. Along with subgrids, there are spacers. So you can see here in this GP information tab I entered a spacer just to keep the aesthetics the way I wanted it to look. And then the quick view form, it's like we talked about before when we created it. If you select that, you name and label it, and then you just start looking, okay, we're looking up based on our primary contact field. It's a contact entity, and then you choose from the quick view forms you have available. We already have that one here. So the other thing that you can customize that we're going to talk about today is this navigation. When you select navigation, you can see off to the left side, everything's white here now. And this is a long list of related record types. And these are all the different record types that you can navigate to from this account form. A lot of times this is pretty cluttered for people to look at. So it's worth the time to consider what do they need access or what is related to what they're looking at. Maybe we don't use playbooks. We like activities, contacts. Maybe we also don't want them or don't need them to look at audit history from there, or maybe invitations. You can cut this down as much as you need to. And I'm going to save this here. And I know we're getting near our end of our time, so I want to show you guys a couple more things before we run out of time here. Okay, it's just taking a moment. Okay, let's go on in here and we'll take a look at the changes that we've made. And when you're within a record, you can have multiple main forms available. For example, everything looks pretty similar here because we're on the same form. There's a drop-down arrow next to account, and this shows you the different forms. We just created that new form, so I'm going to select that one. And here's where we can start seeing some changes. Just want to make sure, yep, there we go. Okay, so up here to the right-hand side, this is the data that was in your header that we had. And then down here, you see this kind of white bar, that is the footer. I don't see a lot of people using that. It stays with when you scroll, similar to the header, but some people do find that to be kind of in the way. But that's where the footer would appear. Now, the benefit of tabs versus sections. When you're looking at this, we see the summary tab, but if you wanted to navigate, if you have a lot of sections, you can navigate with this drop-down arrow and list here, and these are our different tabs names. So if we go down to field service, it opens up the field service. And here's where you can see like project price list details. Those are all the ones that are still collapsed. We unchecked that expand for defaulting. So this is helpful from a navigation perspective. You can go directly to those tabs. So that's one of the benefits of using tabs. And then our subgrids, you can see here's the opportunity subgrid that we used, and this down arrow is where you can select from the different views because we did turn that option on. If you see over here, like under contacts, there is no down arrow because we have that turned off for that particular subgrid. From any of these subgrids, you can hit the plus sign and that will open up the quick create for that entity. You can see here too as well the customer detail card. That's that quick view that we had done before. Now the navigation that we talked about where we started cleaning up that list, whenever you're within a record, if you click on the arrow next to the record name, these are all those related record types that you can navigate to. And you can kind of see how it can get pretty cluttered pretty quick. And that's where it is beneficial to cut that down so you have only the ones your end users would need. For example, in this case, if we went to opportunities, this would pull up, here's all your related opportunities related to that account. So this is also another thing you can use instead of subgrids. Maybe you don't need all those subgrids on the face of the form as long as you can navigate to them here. Now, two other things that you can do with forms. So we saw that I had to navigate over to our new form. You can choose your form order. Now here from the customize box under form order, you can go to main forms, that is the one we're going to look at. And here are all the different forms we have activated for accounts. And you could take like this new form we just created and you can just move it up the list, down, you can create the order. The one at top is going to be the one that's defaulted to when you pull up a record of that type. So you can change the order. And the other thing we talked about earlier was security roles. So let's go ahead and just waiting for this to close out. And you can only enable security roles for one form at a time, and it's only for the main forms, not for like cards or quick creates. So we're going to take our new form here. And we're going to go ahead and enable security roles. And right now it's defaulted only to these selected roles because it's a new form that I created. So if you wanted to open it up to everyone, you can do display to everyone, and everyone will be checked. Or if you were doing something like you only wanted salespeople to see this form or maybe only managers, you can display only to these selected security roles. And you can go through and select who's going to be able to see this particular form you have created. So this was a pretty brief introduction to customizing forms. I know there's even more automation and things that you can do, but this should give you guys a pretty good overview. And I'll open it up if anyone has any questions at this point in time. Well, if not, just want to remind everyone we do have our premier educational event coming up in November at the Microsoft campus. If you want to learn more about the event, you can check it out at our website. We'd love to have you guys there. There's going to be a lot of great sessions going on. And if you do have any questions or concerns that come up regarding CRM, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.